Hey everybody, this is Dan the Chess Enthusiast here with my Grandmaster game looking at the Kiezeritsky Gambit. And the game that I chose today was played in 1873 between Wilhelm Steinitz playing as white and a Russian player named Belyaev as black. Now there are three reasons why I chose this game. The first is because I'm really enjoying going over games from sort of the classical players of the 19th century, such as Steinitz, Lasker, Chigorin, and also Morphy is one of my favorites as well. The second reason is because in this game Steinitz plays a line that I actually neglected to go over in my last video, so I thought this would be a nice little supplement. And the third reason is because Steinitz just uses a really nice tactic towards the end to finish the game, and I just really enjoyed going over that and wanted to share it with you guys. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm just going to flip to the first couple of moves here because we obviously have the King's Gambit accepted. After this move, the knight goes to e5, which is the Kiezeritsky Gambit. Black responds with the knight out to f6, and here Steinitz plays the move that opens up the variation that I didn't go over last time, which is the bishop to c4. Now the next couple of moves are all considered the best moves in the position, and I'll let you know when we deviate from the line here. But we have the pawn to d5, the pawn captures on d5, bishop comes out to d6, the pawn pushes up to d4 to defend the knight, and black jumps its knight to h5. Now from here there are a couple of variations. The king can castle, sometimes the bishop hits a check here on b5, or as Steinitz plays in the game, you have knight out to c3. But let me just say that this is the end of that line that I neglected to go over in the last video. So, that's the supplement, and I hope you guys can take a look at that in your own games. So, the game continues with the knight out to c3, and black responds with queen to e7, putting the knight in a little pin there. And now white hits the check with the bishop to b5. And in this position, black played a really dubious move, and black played the king over to d8. I'm not quite sure why black didn't just make the most obvious looking move, and the move that I saw right away, the computer liked the most, and I'm sure all of you guys saw, which is the pawn coming down to c6 to simply block that check. I'm not sure why black didn't play that move. If any of you guys have any insights into that or the position or anything, I would obviously love to hear them. But black plays the king over to d8, and besides the fact that black can no longer castle, the king here is just really cramped. In this position, the king can't move anywhere, and since the queen side is completely undeveloped, the king is actually going to stay on d8 for the rest of the game, and we'll see how Steinitz is able to exploit this small positional weakness. It's not a big positional weakness yet, but it gets to be pretty soon here. So white castles on the king side, and black captures the knight, and then white recaptures. And facing this position, we can see that there are two pawns that are free for the taking: the pawn on e5 and the pawn on h4. Now black makes the best choice and captures the pawn on h4. If black captures the pawn on e5, that can be met quite handedly with a move like rook over to e1, and then after the queen saves herself by going to f6, we have this open diagonal. The king is still in the center of the board. This is going to be really difficult for black to defend. Not impossible, but difficult. And obviously black wanted to avoid any sort of further difficulties and played the correct move in this position by capturing the pawn on h4. Now, Steinitz's next move is a very interesting one. If you'd like to, you can pause the video and see if you can come up with it. I'm just going to say right off the bat that I would never have come up with this move, but obviously there's a reason why. Steinitz was a former world chess champion, and I am not. But if you want to, pause the video and see if you can come up with the move, and just think about the position of black's king and the most convenient way to attack the king in this position. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the move, and that is the rook capturing the pawn here on f4. Because after the knight captures and the bishop recaptures, yes, white is down 2 pawns in this position, but what white has been able to do is get rid of The only other developed piece for black besides the queen, this knight here on h5 was the only other developed piece. So now the only developed piece that black has left is the queen here. And has also maintained two diagonally attacking pieces on the board, namely the two bishops and also the queen here. In this position, since the king is really hemmed in here on d8, I think Steinitz played this move because he wanted to maintain diagonal attacking pieces. He didn't need a horizontal, vertical attacking piece like a rook. He only needed, again, a diagonally attacking piece, and I think that's why he played the move. So the game continues with the pawn going to g3, and then the queen comes up to f3 to put more pressure on the pawn. Black responds by swinging the rook over to g8 to add another defender to the pawn. White pushes the pawn to e6 and black captures, and in this position white plays a really good move and just captures the pawn right away with the bishop. Now in this position black has to be super careful, because if the bishop is taken, let's just say the queen takes the bishop, well, white can put the queen onto f6 and that's checkmate. Alternatively, if the rook captures the bishop, then queen to f8 is going to be checkmate. So what we need to keep in mind in this position is that this queen cannot vacate the defense of the square here on f6, and this rook cannot vacate the defense of the square here on f8, because both of those squares are checkmate squares for white. So in this position, actually, the computer said that the best move would have been for the queen to play back to e7. That gives white a 2.5 to 3 point positional advantage. Not really good odds for black. It's obviously an uphill battle, but still, maybe kind of playable. Unfortunately, that is not the move, however, that black played, and black played the worst move, which is queen to g8, and the computer gave an immediate 7 point advantage to white in this position. This turned out to be a really big blunder and just crushing for white. Now Steinitz played the next move, queen to f7, and this is threatening two things. One, it's threatening a checkmate here on c7, and it's also threatening a tactic that Steinitz actually uses to wrap up the game, so I'm not going to reveal it quite yet. But that's a really good move. However, if we go back, there was another more forcing move that would have ended the game much sooner and much more cleanly for white. And if you'd like to, you can pause the video and see if you can come up with it. But the move is queen to f2, because in this position, what really can black do? Again, the queen has to stay around here to defend the square here on f6. So maybe the queen could play possibly to e7, and then from here the bishop can just come to h4, and black can try to block maybe with the rook by playing it down to g5. But after the rook is captured by the bishop, this is pretty much game over, because if the queen captures the bishop, then the queen is going to get up here to f8 and hit a checkmate, and the queen is just going to be captured in this position anyway. So that's why, if we go back here, queen to f2 was, as I said, a much more forcing and clean move for white. However, that's not what Steinitz played. Steinitz played a really good move in and of itself, queen to f7. Now, the next move from black, I do not know what black was thinking. Black made a blunder. Either he just resigned himself to the loss because he didn't see anything that he could do and he decided just to play it out to the checkmate, or he completely missed the tactic that Steinitz had lined up for him. He played a really bad move, that is simply pushing the pawn to e5. A better move for black in this position would have been the knight playing to d7, but this still is almost lost for, in fact, this is lost for black. What can happen is the bishop can come to h4 attacking the queen can capture the bishop, and then white can capture on g8 with a check. The king can go to e7, and the queen can capture the pawn on e6, hit another check. After the king goes to d8, the rook over to e1 is threatening checkmate, and the only way to stop that checkmate is to capture with the queen here on e1, after which white would obviously recapture with its queen, and this is just a lost game for black. So that would have been with best play in this position from black. However, that's again not what black played. What black played was pushing the pawn to e5, and this lets Steinitz unleash his tactic. If you'd like to, you can pause the video and see if you can come up with it yourself. But Steinitz simply captures the rook with check here on g8. This is obviously checking the king and attacking the queen, so the queen recaptures. After that, the rook slides over to h4. The only way to block the checkmate is with the queen playing back to g5, at which point bishop captures on g5 is checkmate. So like I said, a nice little tactic to finish up the game. So that's it for the Grandmaster game in the Kiezeritsky Gambit. I hope you enjoyed going over the video with me. If you have any questions or comments, certainly send those my way. And, thanks for watching the video. Take care.